The first reading is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 7. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. The next reading is 1 John 3, verses 11 to 19. For this is the message you have heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. We must not be like Cain, who was from the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own deeds were evil and his brother's righteous. Do not be astonished, brothers and sisters, that the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love the brothers and sisters. Whoever does not love abides in death. All who hate a brother or sister are murderers, and you know that murderers do not have eternal life abiding in them. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brothers and sisters. How does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees his brother or sister in need, yet refuses help? Little children, let us love not in word or speech, but in deed and truth. And by this we will know that we are from the truth and will reassure our hearts before him. May God bless these words to our understanding.
In Matthew, in Mark, and in Luke, we have a very similar interaction. Somebody comes to Jesus and says, what's the most important thing to do? Love God, love your neighbor, Jesus says. Only in Luke do we have that extra bit where somebody is trying to argue about who the neighbor is. Which is striking because then Jesus is actually giving us some instructions about what he means by love your neighbor. In John's gospel, we don't have that interaction, but we do have in the farewell discourse, Jesus says to his friends, a new commandment give I unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, and by this shall all folk know that you are my disciples, that you have love one for another. In 1 Corinthians, we have Paul's wonderful hymn to love, writing to a community which is not doing such a great job at loving each other. They are arrogant, they are boastful, they are rude, they are irritable. Some of them think they're better than others. I mean, I'm sure that's the only community in all of human history that has had these problems, but still. Paul says, there's a better way. In 1 John, we have I had a wealth of passages to choose from 1 John. In addition to this one, there's one from chapter 4 where, Beloved, let us love one another because love is from God. Everyone who truly loves is a child of God because God is love. The commandment to love runs deep in the genetics of what it means to follow the way of Christ. The how we communicate it, not so clearly described. Probably because there's a lot of ways we share our love. There's a theory which was put together by a Baptist pastor in the U.S. a few years ago about the love languages. And like any theory, it's got its pluses and it's got its minuses and it's got its critics and it's got its cheerleaders. But it's helpful because it reminds us that there's not one way we love. Now, the theory was based on couple relationships, intimate couple relationships. But a lot of the same ideas work out. Because as people who are called to love our neighbor, and Jesus is very clear, not only in the Good Samaritan story, but also in the Sermon on the Mount, when he says, any fool can love your friend. I tell you to love your enemy. Jesus is very clear that love your neighbor means love your neighbor. And in case you forgot, Sesame Street taught us, who are the people in your neighborhood? They're the people that you meet when you're walking down the street. They're the people that you meet each day. And there's a variety of ways we do that. I think it's one language with many dialects. I wouldn't call it 5 languages. I would call it 5 dialects, and then there's sub-dialects within them. Sometimes we show love acts of service by serving each other. In a couple relationship, this may be the person who always gets up early to make sure the dishes are done. Or the one who comes home and quickly throws together supper so that when the partner comes home, it's done. In the church, it might be the ones who show up and reorganize chairs, who provide food. There are in every community people whose love language, or one of their love languages, is feeding others. The giving of gifts. There are people for whom they don't have the words, but they bring a small token. Years ago, 20 years ago or so, when everybody in the world thought they should have a blog because we all thought everybody wanted to hear our thoughts, we were wrong. But anyway, I was part of a community of bloggers. And one of the nice things about blogs and that version of the internet was it was one of the few places you could share thoughts and people could comment on them. I mean, yes, comment threads are a mixed blessing at best. But within that community, a tradition developed, which we called blogstones. And what a blogstone was you would type an open bracket, a dot, a closed bracket. And it would be those times when you wanted to let somebody know you had read them, you wanted to let somebody know you were there with them, but you didn't really have something to say, or what you wanted to say had been said 5 comments above. So you would leave a blogstone. Just that little, you're not alone. I'm there with you. It's a token of love. Some people now suggest that if you have somebody in your social media circle who keeps sending you Instagram meme reels or keeps sending you TikToks, it's the same thing. It's that sign of connection. A way of saying you're important to me. Spending time together. One of the things the people most missed 5-6 years ago, because 6 years ago, next month, the world changed. And one of the things people over and over again said they missed was getting together with people, spending time with people. Now, we learned new ways of doing it. We learned, how many of you had heard of Zoom 6 years ago in February? Actually, none of us had. Skype was sort of the way it was done at that point. But we learned new ways of being together because we knew that one of the ways we show we're a community, one of the ways we show we love each other, one of the only ways we can love each other is by being together in some form. Some ways we show, and these overlap. That's why I call them dialects rather than separate languages. Because one of the things when we're together is we tell each other what we mean to each other. We give thanks for what people have done. We share, that was really well done. Thank you. One of the other things people really missed in that year following March 15th, 2020. And I know because as soon as we started getting back here, there was always the people who said, "Can I give you a hug? Can I shake your hand?" It's possibly one of the most intimate ways we share love. One of the things we used to do years ago when for Maundy Thursday we had a potluck worship service downstairs is we would often start that with lining up and washing each other's hands. Because one of the stories you tell on Maundy Thursday traditionally is the washing of the feet. That's a little more complicated in an Alberta spring. So we would wash each other's hands. And there's something deeply touching about turning to your neighbor, dipping their hands in a basin. There's a variety of ways. That's just touching the very edge of all the ways we can show love for each other. And it's important to remember that there's all these different ways because one of the things that happens is we have our own preferred way of speaking love. We each speak love in our own preferred way. And sometimes, as with everything else, we then miss each other's messages. I forget which slide I put next. Okay, it worked perfectly fine before church. There we go. So again, more ideas about how these different languages get lived out. And one of the things that happens in the theory of love languages, which as I say was based on couple relationships, is that if you have somebody whose preferred love language is acts of service, and so they're always doing things, but the partner's preferred language is quality time, then you have one who says, "Why does she not realize how much I'm doing around here?" And the other saying, "Would you stop doing things and spend time with me?" As communities, we need to be aware of the different ways that love is established. We need to be aware of different ways the community is built up so we don't miss the gifts somebody else is offering. This one's a bit easier to read. There's only 4 of them, though. As you look at that list, this is the list that really stuck out at me because this is the list I think works really well in community. When I think of all the congregations I've been a part of, I look at this list and I say, I've seen these things happen over and over again. How does this community show love to each other? How does this community speak love within our walls? How does this community speak love outside our walls? We do it by sharing gifts. We do it by spending time together. We are commanded to love each other. How we do it is largely up to us, largely up to our preferences. Because there are some people for whom physical touch is just, no, I can't hug somebody else. And there are those who say, I really need to give you a hug. And when those two people are in the same room, it gets interesting. One of the tools we have to speak love is checking in with each other. Will this work? It strikes me as I was working with all these things last week that often when we talk about how we speak love, we talk about what we give out, what we offer. Part of speaking love is how we receive as well. Thinking back to the example of the couple who one speaks love by doing things, by emptying the dishwasher, by cleaning the house, and the other who speaks love by spending time together, just sitting, doing nothing. Apparently some people found that a very attractive idea. When we don't pause to receive what the other is offering, when we don't pause to receive and recognize what the people around us are offering, we might miss the love that's flowing around the room. And yes, sometimes part of being loving is inviting people. You don't have to do it all. Or stepping in and speaking a different dialect than we're comfortable with. We are commanded to love each other. There are a variety of ways we can do that. Again, just some. The important thing is that we do it. The important thing is that we find the way to communicate, you're important to me, you're an important part of our community. Again, whether it's inside these walls or outside these walls, the important thing is that we continue to spread the love of God, because the only reason we can love our neighbor is because God first loves us. And if you don't think that's important, take a look around. And you'll see a world so desperately in need of love. And indeed, as Bad Bunny reminded us last week, friends, let us love each other. Love is a gift God gives. However we speak love, however we hear love, let us love each other so the world can be changed.